Why do we have a waiting room? We have a waiting room.
You're just listening?
No, there's a waiting room, so I have to keep letting people in, but I don't know why we do it that way. Oh, Connie, you look like you're in a very nice place. I don't know why that is.
Can you hear me? Hi. I'm in kind of a public place. I hope this will work.
Kind of where?
Hey, everybody.
Hi, team. I don't know that we should bother waiting for Matt. He said he was always iffy. He was always going to be iffy at this time in the afternoon because of his work responsibilities. So, okay, if we just go ahead. I just want to get our agenda back up.
Patricia, it looks
Meeting
like
to order.
the angle that you're at, it looks like Luca is like standing on a table.
He is. Not a table, a sofa.
Oh, jeez.
Not provision of government services
Luca.
or transfer.
So
Government. No,
the
that's-
first item on the
I
agenda
don't know.
is
I'll have to look
to
at
approve the agenda.
Because
But
that
Voting
was,
is
I'd like to make
obviously
an amendment
I know,
up
but that
front.
was under revenue.
Connie,
So
your
just a
connection is
second.
bad. I can barely hear you.
I'll try to speak into the phone.
And there's a lot of
Say yes.
background noise.
I know, I'm sorry. Here. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
That's much better.
I'm in the Yale Club in New York City, and this is the best they could do for like a professional workspace. I was going to go into a phone booth, but then they started having a piano player and carols right outside, so that didn't work out too well. So anyway, anyway, what I was saying is I'd like to add an item to the top of the agenda. We'll do it right after minutes, if that's okay. And that is Board of Selectmen meeting from last night.
Definitely. I agree to that.
Okay.
I agree also.
Do we need,
Does anyone
want
else
a
have
motion?
any other? Does anyone else have any other amendments to make to the agenda?
That
Okay.
was the one I
So
wanted to make.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as
Second.
amended. Thank you,
A
Barbara.
second.
Thank you, Patricia. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Actually, it's unanimous, so the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from last week's meeting of December 8th. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes?
probably not,
Yeah.
because I
And does
just
anyone
sent
have
them out
any-
like an hour ago.
I think you also sent them last week, Jean.
Oh,
I think
in
you sent them to the
draft,
ARPA committee last week.
Okay, great.
Does anyone have any amendments to make to those minutes? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thanks, Jean. Thanks, Joe. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
It's unanimous. The motion carries. Thank you. Okay. So The item that we've added to the agenda is the Board of Selectmen meeting from last night. And I have the recording, but I have to admit I haven't seen the whole thing just because it only recently just came out. But my information is that the Board of Selectmen obligated about $40,000 of ARPA funding last night to 2 projects, including technological equipment for Town Hall, which I remember discussing in this meeting, was already budgeted in the regular budget, and various expenses for the emergency management team. And I was wondering, Jean, what that was about, because I don't think we discussed it in this committee. And, even in last week's meeting, it didn't come up. So it was sort of a surprise to, certainly to me, and to people in that meeting.
So the 10,000 was for the hybrid hardware. Was, as far as I know, there wasn't money in the regular operating budget. Was that, you said that was said at a prior meeting? That there was money in the normal budget for that? Because there wasn't. We hadn't put anything, as far as I know, there was nothing in the town hall or technology line for that. And because it is eligible and we need to move forward with being able to have these hybrid meetings. We had a much lower bid, fortunately, than the original bid that we got from another company that was like almost 30,000. And so Ucatech said that they could do it for way less, and we moved it through and are going to use the ARPA money to make that happen. There was a spirited conversation last night about the in-person versus Zoom versus hybrid, and we need to be able to offer this option to people. So the board voted on it.
Well, the board
Me
voted on
too.
it after your proposal for using that money that way, right? But I don't understand how that proposal could have been made if we haven't finished our analysis and made recommendations.
Right. And so walking through this committee is charged to do the needs assessment and make those recommendations. But there's nothing to say that the board couldn't make some decisions in the interim. I would much have rather being able to afford it out of our budget, but we don't have that money in the budget, and these 2 items need to happen. We have a local emergency operations plan that's 10 years out of date, and it needs to be updated. And that was the other piece. That was a $23,000, and the outfitting of the emergency operations center. So there were some items and equipment for that other expenditure. And no,
And all of this happened within the last week, so that you had no knowledge of this as of last week.
Emergency management had come to the Board of Selectmen. Chris Garrity had asked, this is many months ago, to sort of come to them and tell them what emergency management does. That led to a different conversation of what would you need to make emergency management be able to function. And then that led to this purchase and timeline of getting the local emergency operations plan back to where it should be, and the outfitting of the emergency operations center. So it was an ongoing conversation, but it became a budget within the last, I would say, 3 weeks, but it wasn't, it wasn't a gelled budget because the board hadn't discussed it. It's, I don't know any other way to explain that. It was just both of them were swift moving targets. We were holding off on the hardware, and then
Oh dear.
and then we were able to get this much lower price, and there's been a lot of pressure to have hybrid meetings because there's still a very split sort of opinion on meeting back in person versus meeting on Zoom.
Does anyone else have any comments to make at this time? And if not, there's something I'd like to read into the meeting record. Okay, go ahead, Patricia.
I do. Jean, your reasoning for bringing these two issues up yesterday to the Board of Selectmen doesn't ring true to me. You have submitted a budget for emergency management. I don't know, at least 2 times, withdrawn it once, been rejected a couple of times. And I think you've had this plot afoot for quite some time to use ARPA money. Why you had to do it in last night's meeting is known only by you. It could have waited until after the board made their decisions. I think that you broke faith with the committee. I think that you are disingenuous, borderline sneaky, and I'm really disappointed in your behavior on this. You've undermined our work. You've undermined the mission of the committee, which is standing for complete and open transparency. And I'm really angry about it.
So,
Yeah, I honestly don't even know where to begin. I resent being left out of the loop, where it sounds like the whole committee is just being sidelined here. Our purpose. No.
Sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, this is how I feel. I just happened to look at the Zoom meeting this afternoon, right before this meeting happened. And anyhow, I was stunned, that these things came up, and these were not discussed at all at any of the meetings that we had. And that's the whole purpose of this committee, is to come up with recommendations. That's our mission, that this is what we're supposed to do. Now, specifically, the emergency management, I recall reading in the Lakeville Journal, there was an article back, I would say probably November, that the prior administration had discussed using some funds, ARPA funds, to look into emergency management regulations, to bring them up, or their written protocol to bring it up in information. I mean, this was published in the Lakeville Journal, but nothing was mentioned at all during any of our meetings about this. Now, these are valid things. I mean, I to my way of thinking, these are valid things. But my concern is that this wasn't mentioned to anybody else on the committee as to what their input would be about this. So that's my concern.
Barbara, do you have comments?
Other than to say that I was not privy to that information that happened at the meeting last night. I didn't know it was going to happen. And I take some of Patricia's comments and some of Joe's comments, and I feel the same way, but I'm not sure that beating up on Jean is going to be very helpful to all of us. But other than that, I guess I don't have anything else to say. I wasn't part of that equation last night at all.
Okay, well, I don't think that the next thing I'm going to say is going to be very helpful either. But this is the letter that I've prepared for you today. Oh, if I can get it to read. Oh, no. had it all prepared, and because of connectivity, I'm getting a blank. Try to refresh. I'm so sorry. I'm caught out without it. If we want to move on to another comment while I work with my tech.
So just to continue the conversation, the charge of the committee is to conduct a needs assessment to make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on potential uses to ARPA for ARPA funds.
And the Board of Finance together. And that does not excuse why you didn't communicate to us what you intended to do. There is no excuse for that. You took it upon yourself for your pet projects or people and went out there knowingly leaving us out of the loop and lobbying extensively the two selectmen to get them to vote your side. It was a concerted effort on your
Patricia,
part.
I did not
Don't pretend
lobby
innocence, Jean.
Rufus. I can't lobby Rufus. I
You
can
did.
caucus
I
with
heard
someone.
you. I watched the video. Yes, you did. You promoted
You're
those things extensively. You're not speaking for the committee, you're speaking for yourself, but you really think it's in the best interest, blah, blah, blah. I heard you.
because that's what I think. And so
You should have shared that with
sort
the
of
committee
saying-
and then we would have supported you. You completely undermined and broke faith with the committee. How can you work with people when people can't trust you? People can't
Jean,
trust you to be open and honest and forthcoming.
it wasn't even proper for you to bring that proposal as an interested party. It was absolutely improper for you to vote on that proposal as
It
an
was-
interested party.
It was part of the progression of the last 5 months of a Board of Selectmen back and forth with emergency management. And I take issue with the,
Not
know,
to
like the
obligate the money of, the townspeople are relying on us to help carry out an objective, fair, and transparent process for this. What I was going to read to you and what I hope to still read to you is my letter of resignation from this committee as of tonight, immediately after reading it. It goes against all of my professional ethics to be seen as somebody who is on a committee that is, on its face, talking about a fair process while, interested parties who are privy to inside information jump the line. And that is something that I cannot personally, be part of. It's something that professionally I can't be part of. I feel that this committee is no more than window dressing for the town, and I will not be part of it. And I did prepare a letter of resignation that states all of these reasons. It also has some recommendations for this committee. You do not need to abide by them. What you do after this is up to you. But my recommendation would be to reconstitute the committee without Jean on it, or if Jean is to be on it, to make sure that the survey responses are also are in the control of another member of the committee who is not on the Board of Selectmen, to request that the Board of Selectmen rescind their votes from yesterday until there can be a time where recommendations can be made by the assessment committee about the allocation of funds, just to level the playing field once more. And that if Jean is to stay on the committee, that she not bring any proposals for funding that is related to town municipal boards and upgrades to town hall, anything that is where she could be considered somebody who would have an interest other than the objective interests of this committee. And that Jean also be required to recuse from discussion and voting on Board of Selectmen matters when a proposal is being made of that nature. So those would be my recommendations. They are laid out in this letter. I feel terrible that I can't access it right now from here in this space, but I will upload it into our shared drives, and absolutely all of the materials that I've created for this committee and held for this committee are in our shared drives.
This was an ongoing conversation that the Board of Selectmen, I know that I'm not going to convince anybody of anything else, but it was an ongoing conversation that's been going on for months and months. And there were multiple conversations where we said this funding could and should be used to work on this, get this local emergency operations plan back in an updated version. Sorry, I'm just having trouble finding words.
I think you said
Nothing
that,
to say.
Jean. I'm not sure loads of people said that.
No,
I
I'm not
think-
saying that loads of people said that. I'm saying that at conversations at the Board of Selectmen meeting over the last 4 or 5 months, and that's where this progression was started with this, with emergency management. I think I
Having
even said
watched
it at the
those,
town budget meeting.
I think that having watched those, that's not exactly a factual representation. I think it was rejected and alternative sources of funding were searched for, and this is something that came up, but that really is beside the point. The point is that you shouldn't have taken these 2 proposals to the Board of Selectmen last night. You certainly shouldn't have done it without the knowledge of the rest of your committee. This is a terrible shame that we're losing Connie, that your ARPA Needs Assessment Committee is falling apart based on your action. You got the $24,000 that you wanted for EMS, and you got the 12 for the video equipment, but you're gonna have to pay the price of a totally defunct ARPA Needs Assessment Committee. And that is a very sad state of affairs because some of us put a lot of effort into this.
I've just emailed my notice and I'm going to leave the meeting now. Thank you.
Connie, I'm so sorry to see you go.
Connie,
I'm sorry as well. And I did make an apology to all of you at the bottom of the letter for the time that you've spent and dedicated to this effort. So I do apologize for that, but I can't be associated with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
I call to adjourn this meeting. I don't know about Joe and Barbara and myself, but I need to think about things, whether I want to be part of this myself. I guess I would consider a reconstituted committee that does not include Jean on it. So I make a motion to adjourn this meeting and let everyone think about their response.
I'll second.
All in favor? I'm so sorry about this. I really am. It's very, very discouraging. Joe, feel free to reach out. Barbara, if we can come up with a new committee, we'll take it from there. I don't know.
Barbara, are you the host of this meeting?
Maybe. I don't know. Probably, maybe. I don't know.